Yes, some seasons are brief and finite, and you will never get it back. Yes, some people are lost, not because they're wrong or because they're weak, but because the world failed them, and there's nothing we can do about it because ultimately it is their choice. And yes, some losses are permanent and unjust, and you will never get over it. And some love only exists in memory, but still defines a lifetime. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Udah lama kita nggak update dan ngobrol ya. Karena jujur aja, gue sibuk banget. And things has been really crazy. Jadi, unfortunately gue nggak bisa ngepost atau bikin video di channel ini sesering yang gue harapin. Kalau misalnya kalian ngikutin Instagram gue atau YouTube gue atau sebagainya kan, gue lagi mulai eh Malaka Books, terus abis itu juga ada Wiwi Podcast dan sebagainya. And honestly, very very grateful. Gue seneng banget tahun ini. Sibuknya tuh yang bener-bener yang bikin gue grateful ya, karena produktif dan gue ngerasa gue tuh punya privilege banget untuk bisa ngerjain project-project yang dimana gue tuh bener-bener ngerasa seneng gitu. Tapi ya downside-nya akhirnya ternyata gue nggak bisa update as often di sini. Nah, tapi karena ini di akhir tahun dan honestly artinya udah setahun channel ini dibuat gitu karena awalnya gue bikin channel ini untuk eh bikin video soal refleksi tahun 2024. And ini end of 2025, jadi gue mau bikin video refleksi lagi apa yang gue pelajarin di tahun ini gitu. Dan itu rencananya. Nah, tapi seperti yang kalian sudah lihat di judul, eh ini akan jadi rant gue soal Jujutsu Kaisen. Dan tapi sebentar, oke. Jadi bentar, hear me out, oke? This is my hear me out cake. Gue ini akan tetap jadi refleksi 2025. Tapi gue akan masuk dari Jujutsu Kaisen. Tapi gini, kalian yang nggak nonton pun menurut gue masih bisa nonton ini karena ini gue nggak akan cuman dissect tentang Jujutsu Kaisen, tapi lebih ke gue mau ngomongin soal hal-hal yang gue pelajarin di tahun ini dan hal-hal lebih penting lagi yang gue pelajarin tentang diri gue. Dan tapi realization and enlightenment ini hanya bisa akhirnya gue unravel dan gue ketemuin karena obsesi gue ke Jujutsu Kaisen, specifically ke arc Hidden Inventory dan Gojo and Geto's relationship gitu. Jadi this is my hear me out cake, oke? Please stay. Kalau kalian kayak kak, gue bukan whip gitu nggak apa-apa. Dan harapan gue ya mungkin siapa tahu abis ini kalian malah akan tergugah untuk pengen nonton Jujutsu Kaisen juga. Jadi emang sebenarnya ada agenda situ juga ya. Dan mungkin kalau kalian sudah nonton dan sudah baca, and kalian tuh mikir kayak, kak serius cuman kayak gini? Ya, jujur gue ngerti dan ini gue akan bahas juga gitu. Tapi I hope that this rant can somehow make you reconsider and appreciate that fiction as it deserve gitu ya. And And before we get into anything, kayaknya gue juga di video ini bakal banyak lebih pakai bahasa Inggris karena banyak banget refleksi-refleksi yang modelan kayak gini untuk gue pribadi lebih cocok gitu vocabulary di bahasa Inggris dan gue kurang nyaman aja gitu kadang kalau term coin ini pakai bahasa Indonesia. Jadi tapi I hope you can still follow along. Ini bakal campur-campur lagi-lagi nih. My personal, very public diary. Mungkin above all juga this video I hope can be an appreciation towards fiction. I've always appreciate fiction. I think fiction in my life have played such a huge role in really keeping me sane, being my coping mechanism, and really helping me uncover things about myself that otherwise I would never. Dan mungkin disclaimer sedikit juga untuk orang-orang yang nanti pasti ada kan, you know what kak, it's not that deep. GG Akutami aja kayak nggak akan mikir ke sana gitu. First of all, menurut gue, yes GG Akutami mikir sampai ke sini. Yes GG Akutami itu sebenarnya ngeplan Jujutsu Kaisen tuh sedalam ini sebenarnya. Dan gue tuh gini, Gua nggak main untuk orang yang cuman baca for fun. I know I am not a casual enjoyer. Gue orangnya rada obsesif. Dan gue juga nggak setiap kali semua work of fiction yang gue konsum, gue harus sampai deep dalam banget kayak gini. No, no, I totally get it. Dan gue juga, I'm in the fandom. Gue juga suka banget. I'm a big enjoyer of the brain rot edits and the agenda edits and all of that. Kayak, I totally get the joke. I think you can enjoy that and also recognize that sebenarnya this piece of fiction tuh have depth in it. And yeah, anyway, let's get into it. Jadi gini, gue mau ceritain dulu kenapa OTW-nya gitu ya. Kenapa gue akhirnya mutusin, enggak deh gue nggak akan bikin refleksi 2025. Tapi gue ganti itu, jadi gue mau ranting soal JJK aja. Jadi gini, karena beberapa hari yang lalu, atau mungkin bukan beberapa hari yang lalu, ini udah beberapa mingguan lah, semingguan gitu. Jadi Jujutsu Kaisen punya movie, itu kan baru keluar tuh yang mau introduce Culling Game. Dan karena itu fandomnya awaken lagi, jadi FYP, timeline gue semua isinya JJK lagi, bla 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 bla. Terus abis itu ini baru 24 Desember, which is the death anniversary Gojo Geto, jadi obviously the fandom went crazy again. Um, Jadinya, ya sebelum, obviously, full spoiler ahead ya. Yeah, anyway, jadi gue mulai nge-rabbit hole lagi, JJK. Dan gue tuh at one point, gue tuh nge-rabbit hole yang sampai gue tuh sampai bangun sampai jam 4 pagi, gue nggak ngerasa lapar, gue nggak ngerasa ngantuk. Terus saya tuh bangun, gue nge-rabbit hole lagi JJK, dan it's always tentang hidden inventory gitu, yang the bulk of it ya. Tapi sebenarnya lebih banyak lagi tuh lebih ke hubungannya antara dynamicnya Gojo sama Geto gitu. Nah, gue tuh sampai I caught myself. I was like, this is not normal. This is not normal. Kenapa ini sampai segininya gitu kan? Saya gini, lagi-lagi gue tipe orangnya rada obsesif. Jadi artinya tuh gue hampir gak bisa suka sesuatu terus casual aja gitu. Gue kalau misalnya suka sesuatu, gue pasti mau fully commit dan gue akan ngutrek, gue akan ruminate, gue akan mikirin itu terus yang sampai intens gitu. Dan maksudnya gue tuh kalau udah suka eh kayak anime atau TV show atau movie atau a work of fiction atau whatever gitu ya, gue tuh pasti akan masuk ke forum, gue akan baca-baca teorinya, gue akan baca-baca apa ya, analisis yang sampai berhalaman-halaman itu. Gue pasti akan nyari fandomnya, gue akan nyari komunitasnya, gue mau plug in, gue mau lihat orang-orang ngomongin apa, gue mau lihat ada nggak yang notice hal-hal yang gue notice juga. Gue pengen tahu teori orang ini kenapa begini. I wanna read everything. Gue mau baca, gue mau dengerin interview author ya. Gue pengen lihat behind the scene-nya kalau ada. Dan pokoknya gue kayak gitu. That's how I enjoy. Gue nggak bisa enjoy kalau misalnya casual, usually gitu ya. And that's why gue juga jarang banget nyoba fiction yang baru. Karena gue tahu gue kayak apalagi kalau lagi sibuk gitu ya, gue kayak, gue tuh gak ada waktu untuk ini gitu. Dan iya, tapi kayak I've had obsession over many different works of fiction. Kayak waktu itu gue pernah sangat obsesi sama Rocky Horror Picture Show. Terus abis itu gue juga pernah suka banget sama Attack on Titan. Yakitate Japan dulu, Detective Q. Kalau misalnya ya Rocky Horror tadi bukan anime sih. Yang bukan anime lagi ada nggak ya yang gue sempet? Oh, Dexter gue sempet lumayan. Doctor Who sempet dalam juga gue. Nah jadi kayak emang gue orangnya seperti itu gitu ya. Dan mungkin kalian juga bisa lihat itu ke-translate ke kerjaan-kerjaan gue gitu. Kena kayak ke Wiwi, ke Malaka Books, buku Makanya Mikir gitu. Gue obsesif banget gitu. Dan mungkin trait ini juga yang kadang bikin work gue tuh akhirnya kelar dan akhirnya kayak diterima dan sebagainya gitu. Tapi ya anyway, ini traitsnya gue gitu. Nah, like I said, gue udah pernah obsesi sama hal-hal lain. Gue emang bukan casual enjoyer. Makanya for a long period of time juga, gue nggak terlalu alarm sama obsesi gue ke Jujutsu Kaisen. Gitu. Menurut gue kayak, oh ya, this is another Abby thing. Kayak Abigail, my psyche just doing her thing, latching on, fixated on yet another thing gitu. Nah, tapi gue pun gini, kayak gue tuh nggak cuman obsesi. Kayak kadang tuh gue obsesinya fueled ke misalnya curiosity kok bisa ya seseorang nulis cerita sampai kayak gini. Gue pengen tahu kayak gimana dia kerja. Oh, waktu itu gue juga obsesi juga sama Hamilton gitu. Jadi gue pengen tahu Lin-Manuel Miranda tuh bisa sampai nulis lagu-lagu kayak gitu tuh kayak gimana. Gue sampai nontonin interviewnya, gue sampai gue nguprek lah gitu. Rocky Horror juga menurut gue kayak it's such a weird piece of art gitu. And lagunya enak tapi menarik apa kayak it's wrong, it's weird gitu kan ya. Jadi ya gitu. Nah, Jujutsu Kaisen juga gitu. Nah, tapi ada certain point juga yang gue ngerasa kayak kok kok gue tiap kali nginget itu kayak nyesek banget gitu ya. It's like I'm grieving a real person. And it's like I am grieving something real gitu dan gue tuh jadi ya udah whatever. Mungkin the story is just compelling. Nah, tapi abis itu, ya itu, ini yang barusan banget ini, itu kan kayak Hidden Inventory udah lama banget ya gue baca, itu kayak pas Covid ya, artinya udah mau 4, 5 tahun, eee, I'm itu udah kelar gitu, tapi it still stays with me dan gue masih kepikiran dan gue pun ngeliat sama banyak fandom lain, orang-orang yang di fandomnya juga kayaknya gue nggak sendiri gitu, in how this story and these two character itu bener-bener kayak captures dan gue tuh bukannya maksud gue tuh it's bukan yang kayak the shipping type ya maksudnya kayak ya emang storynya aja gitu dan jadi ya karena gue sangat terobsesi apa segala gue mulai mikir oke ketika sesuatu itu gue mikirin terus gue nggak bisa get over gue sampai kepikiran obsesi apa segala ini pasti ada sesuatu gitu dan I feel like maybe kalian juga bisa relate yang dimana nggak harus anime atau manga gitu ya dimana mungkin kalian pernah denger lagu kalian pernah denger orang ngomong atau kalian pernah ngeliat painting atau kalian pernah ada apa atau baca buku apa yang kalian tuh kayak gila ini hit sesuatu gitu di gua dan gua nggak tahu kenapa gue obsesi banget dan sebagainya gitu. Nah, itu yang gua rasain dengan Hidden Inventory JJK. Dan ini yang gue mau ngomongin ke orang-orang yang mungkin kalian udah pernah baca, pernah nonton, kalian kayak, "Kak, masa kayaknya gitu doang deh ceritanya," gitu ya. Dan I totally get that. Karena gini, ketika gue pertama kali baca JJK juga, especially season 1 gitu ya, itu biasa banget. Nah, abis itu masuk Hidden Inventory, itu kan arc yang season 2. Arc yang season 2 itu, gue juga pas baca, itu arc short banget karena itu flashback kan. Kayaknya cuman 5 6 chapter ya, short dan ketika gue baca kayak menurut gue bagus gitu. Tapi nggak yang sampai gue nangis on the spot, nggak yang sampai gue kayak mind blown sampai loncat dari bangku gue gitu kayak enggak gitu emang yang kayak oh gitu kan. Nah, tapi habis itu I find myself returning to it and I find myself kayak kepikiran days after I read it gitu. Dan abis karena gue kepikiran apa segala dan apalagi ceritanya maju ke yang Shibuya gitu ya yang sebelum Gojo di seal yang Kenjaku pakai badannya Geto. Terus abis itu eh apalagi abis itu fight-nya Gojo sama Sukuna dan akhirnya Gojo mati dan ketika dia mati the first thing he saw is Geto dan mereka balik ke younger version of themselves itu gue nggak bisa kayak it just keeps gnawing at me man dan sampai akhirnya jadi gue akhirnya terobsesi dan it hit something apa segala um, and dari situ gue mulai decide gue mau get to the bottom of this gue mau bener-bener refleksi kenapa ini kayak gini karena menurut gue this can offer a really important clue about myself, about how I view the world or the things that maybe I am grieving about or values that I value gitu. Jadi Gue sangat-sangat pengen investigate dan beberapa hari yang lalu gue akhirnya figure out kenapa. Dan menurut gue realization ini bener-bener open my mind dan ini bener-bener kayak it shook me yang akhirnya menurut gue ya ini harus jadi 2025 reflection gue karena this encapsulates everything that I've been feeling and ternyata the clue has always been there in why I am obsessed with JJK. Dan gue tahu kalau misalnya kalian ngikutin journey gue, Instagram gue atau podcast-podcast yang I frequent gitu ya, gue udah sering banget juga ngomongin JJK gitu. Apalagi kayak misalnya yang di Malaka sama Ferry gitu sama Kania, terus habis itu ada yang nanti bakal keluar, gue nggak tahu keluar kapan, bakal keluar dia duluan apa ini, tapi gue rekaman di The Reading Chamber bareng Pram sama Pras dan kita juga bahas JJK obviously. Jadi gue udah ada outlet untuk ngomong tapi kayak abis itu obviously clean sound with Eno Bening. Nah tapi itu semua tuh kayak formatnya gue harus perform ya dan dimana harus debat gitu dan gue I just need to let this out. Ini kayak I just need to get this out of my system. And ini ya ini my channel gitu. Jadi kayak oke, you guys are gonna listen to the full fleshed out breakdown. Aduh, gue harus summarize dulu nggak ya cerita supaya kalian mungkin gue summarize dikit kali ya untuk kasih konteks untuk yang belum tahu. Jadi gini, oke. Hidden Inventory JJK. JJK tuh di set di world di mana dia ada sorcerer, mereka fight off curse dengan curse energy. Nah, jadi gini. Ceritanya tuh curse are born out of humans negative emotion. Ya, jadi humans negative emotion accumulate apa segala, terus dia jadi monster-monster yang kemanifestasi gitu. Nah, non-sorcerer atau human yang bukan sorcerer, mereka nggak bisa lihat curses ini gitu, tapi curses ini bisa cause real harm to the world. Tapi curses ini apa? Curses ini terlahir dari negatif emosinya manusia gitu, yang nggak bisa kontrol curse energy mereka, akhirnya tumpah jadi curse gitu. Nah, sorcerer adalah manusia juga, tapi bedanya mereka curse energy mereka tuh mereka bisa transform jadi kekuatan untuk fight off the curses. Jadi instead of luber jadi curse energy mereka tuh bisa dijadiin power gitu lah. Nah ini that in itself menurut gue tuh udah gue suka banget konsepnya karena this has really profound real life implication gitu ya yang dimana the danger of this world, the curses are born out of negative emotions from humans that cannot control their negative emotions. And it is the job of people who can control their own negative emotion and transform that into power to defeat the evils of the world gitu. That talks a lot about self-control, emotional regulation, and I just think it's a beautiful concept. So that's the world, yeah. And then Gojo is the most powerful sorcerer in the world, in that world. Yang dimana powernya dia itu namanya Infinity, yang basically gue nggak akan describe sampai gimana ya, cuman basically dia brings the concept of infinity into real life, where jadi orang tuh nggak bisa pegang dia karena they will forever there's an infinite space between them and him, yang dimana they will get infinitely slowed down gitu loh kalau misalnya itu. Jadi it's that, and then dia bisa ubah itu jadi kayak hollow purple apa segala gitu lah. Cuman konsepnya ada itu dan itu penting untuk kayak as a reference nanti gitu ya. Nah, dia diintroduce sebagai udah mentor atau teacher gitu yang he's the most powerful sorcerer tapi dia juga mentor teacher terus dia muridnya tuh ada 3 orang jadi very mirip banget Naruto kalau kalian yang nonton gitu ya dia selalu dibilang the strongest right he claimed that himself I am the strongest everyone says that he's the strongest gitu nah tapi so itu season 1 nah season 2 itu adalah flashback ke masa muda Gojo. And kita juga found out bahwa salah satu main mastermind di Jujutsu Kaisen yang main mastermind villain ya, yang orchestrate a lot of stuff itu namanya Kenjaku. Dan dia tuh kan ada muka apa segala gitu. Nah, tapi pas flashback ke Hidden Inventory ternyata orangnya si Kenjaku itu tuh namanya Geto, dan nggak tahu dia tuh dulu temenan sama Gojo gitu lah. Nah, tapi ini it gets complicated later. Intinya gini, the main antagonist used to be friends with the main one of the main protagonist gitu. Classic trope. Menurut gue ini udah kayak sering lah dilakukan gitu ya. Tentang masa mudanya Gojo, terus habis itu how Geto becomes a villain, quote and quote. Sesimpel itu sebenarnya. Gua mau mulai dari apa ya, aspek-aspek dari hidden inventory yang I think hits very deep, not just for me but for a lot of people in the. I think Gojo as a character has two dimension yang bikin dia very compelling. And a lot of people tuh kayak bingung kayak no he's this, no he's that. Padahal he is this and that gitu in my opinion. The first one is him as the strongest sorcerer, and everyone that says Gojo is dia suka berantem, memang he chase after strong opponents and he's egotistical apa segala. I think it's all true. He loves his power, enjoys fight, he loves the jujutsu world and everything. Itu bener because dia as the strongest sorcerer itu kayak it's a title that he never deny gitu kan ya. Nah, tapi at the same time, we also are introduced to the concept of Gojo as a teacher who seek paths of redemption and reformation through education, and somebody who protects the youth. Dan I think di arc hidden inventory ini, kenapa Gojo jadi teacher, kenapa dia akhirnya run towards education, itu bener-bener di-explore. And I think that is a very, very compelling story and concept. Gojo is the strongest sorcerer. He has immense power. And in the Jujutsu world, di hierarchy-nya, dia tuh, he sits at the top of that. Tapi at the end of Hidden Inventory, because his one of his best friend, Geto, akhirnya turns evil, get radicalized gitu. Dia ada refleksi yang dimana dia bilang, kayak buat apa gue kuat kalau gue cuma bisa selamatin orang yang emang mau diselamatin gitu. Jadi hidden inventory benar-benar nunjukin bahwa strength alone is not enough for the redemption. And Gojo, with all of his strength, cannot save the one person he wanted to save, simply because that person's problem and issue is not that of strength, but is that of ideology and radicalization. And that's why he realized that the only way to save somebody who doesn't want to be safe is through education. And that's why he became a teacher, and that's why he committed himself to raise the next generation to be stronger and to protect their youth gitu. Soalnya one of the reason why Ghetto defected and turned to the other side is because of institutional corruption, which I will talk about later. And then the hidden inventory juga because it is coined as nostalgia ya, as a flashback. I think it really captures the essence of the impermanence of youth and how certain seasons of our lives are finite, and once it's over you cannot get it back. And I think that is a very universal experience, and I think something that a lot of people can resonate with. Si Gege Akutami, the author, dia di salah satu scene adalah pokoknya dia refer ke this hidden inventory arc as Gojo's Blue Spring. I don't know if it's Gojo and Geto's Blue Spring, cuman Blue Spring lah gitu. Nah, Blue Spring ini nih adalah term yang suka dipakai di Jepang gitu ya untuk nunjukin kayak seasons of youth, masa-masa muda yang dimana it is the happiest moment of a person's life, filled with potential, optimism, and it's just like a blue spring gitu. Nah, jadi the fact that Gege Akutami use Blue Spring untuk describe this arc is very intentional in my opinion, to show that this is the moment where Gojo feels the happiest because dia belum jadi quote unquote the strongest, yang dimana dia being strong itu juga jadi isolate him. Hidden Inventory juga talks about bonds, I think, about relationship ya, gitu. Yang dimana Gojo and Geto, mereka tuh kayak, dikasih lihat mereka their bond is very deep. Gua nggak mau go into the discussion yang kayak, oh menurut lu mereka cuman teman or are they more than that, what are they, apa segala. I feel like the author Gege Akutami honestly purposefully never clarify. I think the relationship between Gojo and Geto has ambiguity baked into them purposefully, and I respect that. And jadi ini totally open for interpretation, but whether it is platonic or non-platonic or whatever it is, yang jelas itu ditunjukin bahwa relationship mereka tuh dalam. Even after kayak Geto akhirnya jadi radicalize, abis itu go to the other side, terus abis itu eventually Gojo sampai harus bunuh dia di JJK Zero, terus abis itu ternyata badannya Geto diambil sama Kenjaku dan badannya Geto dipakai buat nge-seal Gojo, soalnya dia guarded down apa segala, itu bener-bener keeps keep apa ya, emphasizing how special their bond is. And apalagi juga pas Gojo akhirnya mati dan the first person he saw in the afterlife itu Geto, and conversationnya mereka itu, it's like, yes, it's never explicitly spelled out, but I, it is very intentional in how the author wanted to show that their bond is deep and special gitu. I think itu juga, that aspect really resonated with a lot of people and especially me, and which I will talk about why later gitu ya. Dan tapi sebelum itu gue mau ngomong juga tentang the reason kenapa Geto jadi villain. I think it is so well done. Jadi Geto becomes a villain not because he found a better way or he is arrogant or because he's evil or he wants to achieve some grandiose plan yang gak jelas gitu. He does, but like at the root of it, it's not because of that. Geto becomes a villain because he cares too much, and he is, because of his idealism, because of his empathy, itu gak bisa nerima kenyataan yang painful gitu, yang akhirnya dia crash out basically. He crashed out, right? And I think it's apa ya, Geto jadi kayak apa, he experiences sort of like an existential crisis, an existential dread and depression due to institutionalized failure, yang dimana dia akhirnya ngelihat untuk apa ya sorcerer ini nih, kayak mereka kan ngebelain manusia biasa gitu. Tapi he saw the ugliness of humanity, yang dimana orang yang dia coba selamatin sebenarnya mungkin gak worth it untuk diselamatin gitu kan. Buat apa gue nyelamatin orang-orang yang jahat? Buat apa gue nyelamatin orang-orang yang ketika Rico, which is like a young girl, dibunuh, akhirnya mati, mereka malah sorakin gitu. Jadi kayak the show really shows that humanity tuh is not all happy and hopeful gitu, tapi kayak it shows the dark side of humanity, yang dimana Geto akhirnya kayak, is it worth saving these people? Dan apalagi untuk save these people, dia harus ngorbanin his friends, yang dimana sorcerers harus risk their life, fight off curses, die horrendous death for a never ending race yang gak worth it gitu. So it's like he cares a lot about the mission, he cares a lot about protecting the weak, he cares a lot about justice, tapi akhirnya his idealism cannot survive the ugly truth. And because of that, dia jadi mikir ini udah gak worth it. Dia jadi resentful and he becomes angry and he becomes hateful gitu. And ini juga karena dia isolated gitu, because after the incident with Toji kan Gojo juga jadi more powerful, he becomes awakened, and ini juga awaken sebenarnya sangat-sangat bisa dilihat sebagai both Gojo and Geto after their encounter with Toji are awakened ya. Gojo mungkin untuk di situ baru secara physical power, tapi kalau Geto itu enlightenment, like ideological enlightenment, yang dimana they both realize something. And karena itu jadi mereka yang tadinya close akhirnya mulai renggang kan, karena Gojo karena dia makin kuat, dia go on his own mission, and then Geto akhirnya sendirian, terus he kept on ruminating over the state of Jujutsu world apa segala. And I think it's such a good depiction of depression and of grief and of what happens when your idealism got hit with real life realities, and your heart just cannot take it gitu, and you started to question everything, and in the end dia akhirnya jadi radicalized. He thought that ya udah kalau misalnya what dia pikir tuh kayak what can make this unending race finite, and that is ketika curses bisa di eradicate. How do you eradicate curses? Curses kan originated from non-sorcerer human yang keluarin negative emotion, and therefore in his mind kalau nggak ada non-sorcerer human, nggak ada curses, and sorcerer nggak harus mati gitu. It's very logical, it makes total sense, and makanya dia jadi radicalized, bent on a mission untuk kill semua non-sorcerer gitu. And I don't think anyone who truly watches this can blame him. A person yang full of idealism and empathy yang akhirnya ke-radicalize karena the institution itself, the elders apa segala, dia gak bisa protect this young kid from the full brunt of reality gitu, yang akhirnya dia jadi sinis gitu kan. And the entire system itself is corrupted, jadi ya dia kayak gitu. Jadi ya I just think it's a very unique villain origin story aja gitu. Dan when Gojo realizes Geto itu udah ke-radicalize, it's too late. Um, And during JJK Zero, before akhirnya Gojo akhirnya harus bunuh Geto. Geto says kan, and I think it's one of the most heartbreaking sentence spoken in Jujutsu Kaisen for me. Dia bilang kayak he never hated Gojo and his friends or any of the Jujutsu sorcerer. It's just that in this world he cannot smile from the bottom of his heart. And I think that kind of sentiment, that honest sentiment, should resonate with a lot of people, and it definitely does to me. Also about Gojo's isolation, I think another part that makes him a very universally loved character is how he is very strong but he has restraint, in a sense dia tuh kuat banget tapi dia nggak pakai kekuatan itu to do whatever he wants. Itu ada versi ya, itu Sukuna, ya kan? Tapi kalau Gojo, he has moral restraint. And I think for a lot of people, that contrast is very compelling. And Gojo juga dibilang kan, after Geto radicalized and left him, dia kehilangan the only person yang bisa stood off equal sama dia, and therefore dia jadi completely isolated. And ini di-exemplify lagi-lagi yang kayak gue bilang tadi, through his power infinity, yang dimana literally nobody can touch him. I think that symbolizes his predicament very beautifully. Waktu abis dia mati, Gojo, and dia ketemu sama Geto reunited in the airport scene, and he says, Gojo says, right, kayak I am not a stranger to isolation. He's been isolated his whole life. And although in the end, he no longer feels lonely because he loves his student and he's surrounded by his students, he says that you can make a flower bloom, you can admire it, but you cannot ask that flower to understand you. And I think that is such a well written short metaphor for Gojo's character gitu. And that's why I think Gege Akutami absolutely wrote this intentionally. Walaupun dia have real genuine relationship with his students, tapi it's like between a human and a flower, yang dimana the only person that can understand him is Geto gitu, dan it's just not the same. And I think for a lot of people that sentiment tuh it's very compelling, it's very moving because mungkin gak harus in the same scenario ya, tapi kayak I know for me also, and maybe for a lot of people, we have people in our past yang we know kayak dia tuh satu-satunya yang bisa ngertiin gue, atau kayak momen itu adalah satu-satunya momen yang dimana gue ngerasa di ngertiin. Dan walaupun sekarang gue udah punya teman baru, gue udah punya komunitas baru, tapi tetap aja nggak bisa gantiin yang dulu gitu. And it's not that we love this new friends community less, it's just different. And it is that acknowledgement, and it is usually community and friends and people that we make back in our youth, in our blue spring, yang gak bisa tergantikan. And I think this is why kayak it's such a beautiful story yang apa ya, ties real human themes gitu loh. Um, Banyak banget sih sebenarnya. Nah, tapi oke, anyway, and one last one itu about jadi di actually in the song. Is it in the song? Gue lupa di mana ya, tapi definitely in the intro song, and then I think somewhere in the manga as well. Geto was described as a flower that dies before it can fully bloom. And I think it talks about potential di mana Geto tuh sebenarnya kan very talented sorcerer and he has a bright future in front of him. But that potential gak pernah bisa mekar dan dia udah mati atau kayak corrupted duluan gitu. And I think the mourning of potential in Jujutsu Kaisen itu juga something yang benar-benar ditekenin gitu. And I think that is very human. That is why it hurts so much. And okay, jadi itu semua tadi listin hal-hal yang I can't stop thinking about this story. And I think when I dig deeper on basically why this shit hurts so much. And I think earlier gue juga udah allude some of that. Tapi kayak I think at its core, this story hits values that modern life has starved us of. Hidden inventory itu dia bener-bener kombinasiin ancient meaning and modern loss gitu. And let me explain by that. I think you know dua orang, two people that bonded not by convenience but by shared meaning and growing up together. That is very human. I feel like that trope is very popular, and in whatever story, people will always resonate with that because we human, we long for that kind of relationship. It talks about grief that never gets fixed, momen masa muda gitu yang felt very meaningful, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. It was open, full of hope and optimism. Talks about disillusionment out of existential depression and modern despair, how modern society and corrupt system can damage and can damage even the most talented and skillful youth gitu, yang even the most hopeful, and how compassion, idealism, empathy, thoughtfulness, talent, extraordinary potential sometimes never get to fully bloom, not because the person makes a mistake or because he's wrong, but because the world failed them. Simply as that. Kaya very, very realistic. Those things yang about the values. I think those things like the values like self-sacrifice and then endurance, loyalty, bond that is non-transactional apa segala, it's becoming apa ya, traits that in modern world is becoming less and less popular gitu, because in modern world, traits like that are usually exploited, unrewarded, dibilang stupid, cringe, and most probably underappreciated gitu, because it cannot be made into content, nggak bisa di film atau apa segala gitu. Kayak we are living in an increasingly transactional world where even the most intimate emotions are co-opted and commodified. I feel like in today's world, we are optimized for self-preservation and having a more frictionless world uh, as possible gitu, yang dimana we prioritize boundaries, self-care, self-interest, which I mean is good. Tapi sometimes a lot of people and oftentimes are taken into the extreme, overemphasize, making relationship jadi very transactional, risk averse, and almost no emotional investment gitu, because we are taught kayak, oh, you should never give more than you receive. If this feels uncomfortable, if this hurts, you need to leave immediately. Do not give people second chances. You need to put yourself first. And I mean, yes, it's good, and I feel like mungkin dulu kita terlalu swing on the other side gitu, yang dimana kita gak punya boundaries apa segala, and therefore kayak orang sekarang we learn self-care, we learn boundaries, and it's good. Tapi at the same time, I think we don't realize that by sanitizing our relationship and by making everything safe, we are removing friction, we are removing potential for depth also, because you cannot have depth without the potential of being hurt, and you cannot put yourself in the position of being hurt without vulnerability, and vulnerability is dangerous, and modern society are actively discouraging that, I feel like. And I mean, I'm not, of course, I'm not talking about universally, but this is my experience, and I feel like maybe that, yeah, okay, I shouldn't talk about for everyone, but for me personally, I feel like relationship now are more transactional. It's more calculated. It's one wrong move and you're out kind of thing. Of course, not all relationship. I have real genuine relationship, but generally. And maybe I miss a world where it's not like that. And this is where it gets really personal. And I think the concept of Blue Spring uh really hits me juga, because I had a really, really beautiful and fun university year back in my younger, when I was in university. It makes me sound damn old, but yes, it's where I don't have a predetermined role yet. I don't have a job yet, and it's just still filled with potential. And yes, back then I experienced a lot of like quarter life crisis, right? Because like gue tuh mau jadi apa, gue nih siapa apa segala. Tapi now I realize that momen itu dimana role lu tuh belum kedetermine, ketika lu tuh masih exploring, dimana dunia tuh masih penuh potensi, itu tuh kayak it's a beautiful moment juga gitu. Jadi mungkin ya kalau misalnya ada yang dengerin yang dan masih exploring, kayak kalian jangan cepet-cepet ngerasa pengen udah ketemu path ya, karena kadang you will miss that moment where everything's still open. And it's not that I hate my life now, no, but it's just it's that nostalgia, right? And gue juga dulu I have like a very solid group of friends, and I don't know, man. I just feel like Hidden Inventory with its nostalgia flashback structure, and di mana kayak it shows how the world back then is still very optimistic, very hopeful. I feel like I miss that, because I again, back in uni, I feel like I view the world very differently than I view now. And I know that a lot of youth feel the same. A lot of people feel the same. Yang dimana back then, the world still feel like it has a lot of potential. We are still optimistic. Yes, the world is filled with unknown, but okay, there's like a, we'll explore this and we'll figure this out type of mentality. And, but because now a lot of things are going to shit, right? uh a lot of institutional failure and things like that, and precisely that gitu. Jadi kayak it's Hidden Inventory is about youthful ideals yang di-destroy sama institutional corruption, precisely what I've been feeling. And I think a lot of people feel as well gitu, yang dimana because the world is becoming more uncertain, becoming more hopeless, it seems. Jadi people are becoming more self-protecting, and that, yeah, it is a cycle of the modern world. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe I think I miss certain things, and it is exemplified in the story Hidden Inventory. Man, I don't know if I'm making sense. I am so sorry, but just it embodies traits and values yang I value deeply, as it turns out, kaya I find meaningful and I find real and I miss and I long for, and I feel like I rarely see again in this world. And malah gue lebih seringnya ya cuman nemu di fiction, and it is increasingly rare and difficult to find and costly in real life gitu ya. Jadi yeah, because modern world, we value convenience over everything, including meaning and real depth. And I like how Hidden Inventory and Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't try to offer consolation, or like I said tadi, kayak wrap everything neatly in the end, atau bilang kayak hey, at least this, or kayak hey, actually akhirnya Geto jadi baik lagi gitu. Kayak enggak, it doesn't say that. It is honest. Instead, the story says that, yes, some seasons are brief and finite, and you will never get it back. Yes, some people are lost, not because they're wrong or because they're weak, but because the world failed them, and there's nothing we can do about it, because ultimately it is their choice. And yes, some losses are permanent and unjust, and you will never get over it. And some love only exists in memory, but still defines a lifetime. Like, and I don't know, I feel like that type of honesty and acknowledgement is really like something that I guess deep down I needed to be acknowledged. And maybe without the help of JJK and without the help of this fiction, gue nggak akan bisa gue nggak bisa pinpoint itu, dan gue juga mungkin nggak strong enough to admit that gitu. And I think, yeah, through this story, I think this is becoming, maybe this is becoming more obvious, and like why I said, this is actually very deeply personal. I think I was grieving a lot of things, and I think that's why I kept on revisiting this story and ruminating over this story, is because it helps me name and express my grief. I think, yeah, grieving doesn't have to be like grieving over somebody who's dead, although I did grieve Gojo's death. But I think I was grieving a world with potential, the blue spring that I used to have also. Or the world that younger me was promised back then. Kayak dulu gue ngerasa kayak pas masih muda gitu ya, gue tuh ngebayangin dunia yang kayak gini gitu, yang dimana hard work pays off, yang dimana real deep meaningful relationship and friendship can still be made past university easily, and how you can feel that bond gitu. Tapi as it turns out, having a deep meaningful relationship as an adult is very difficult. And just like a world filled with meaning, tapi sekarang kan yang what we find is a world that values flair over substance, I would say. Convenience and speed over depth. It just sometimes, or maybe this is just me again, like, this is, lu bisa bilang kayak enggak, kak, dunia gue masih meaningful kok, ya nggak apa-apa, that's good for you. Tapi kayak I feel like in the mo in my experience, ini curhat ya guys, jadi again gak harus universal gitu. I feel like in my, yeah, I don't know, the modern world is just very existentially, like, meaning wise thin. And yeah. Anyway, and yeah, of course, longing for a world, dreaming atau kayak missing world filled with wonder and hope. While now I feel like a lot of people are losing hope, a lot of negativity, way more negativity and pessimism. I guess I'm also through through Ghetto story, I think udah bisa juga kelihatan gitu ya. I am grieving a version of myself that no longer here, or also kayak what could have been also, in a way, because I do resonate a lot, although I don't crash out and become a mass murderer. I do understand the sentiment yang dimana kayak you go into this line of work because you think it is such a noble thing, because you think you are doing something meaningful and you do believe that you can make a difference. Tapi but then you are forced to face reality that makes you question the entire thing. That makes you question, is there even meaning in this? And that is, and on top of that, you see how corrupt institution and authorities are, and you start to think, is there even any hope gitu? And I guess, to add to this layer, right, that is the story of Ghetto. And then lu bisa lihat, and then ada storynya Gojo, yang dimana he is the other side of the coin, yang dimana he does see that reality also, but his answer is education. And I feel like itu kenapa gue tuh kayak gue ke fucked up banget ya, karena education is my line of work as well gitu. And when I was reading JJK kayak uh ini zooming out to the entire story ya. The entire story looks so bleak and hopeless, tapi in the end tuh walaupun it's not a happy ending juga, cuman at least dikasih lihat dan walaupun Gojo mati gitu, at least dikasih lihat bahwa studentsnya Gojo itu udah embody a new world view, a new ideology yang berhasil diinstil sama Gojo through education. And it is precisely because of that new value mereka bisa menang dan mereka akhirnya bisa reform the world yang sebagaimana kayak mimpi Gojo. And gue tuh kayak, oh my god, that does something to me because I thought that Jujutsu Kaisen is a reflection of this world yang dimana bener-bener every single effort that you try atau kayak usaha yang lu lakuin tuh pasti meaningless, semuanya mati, gagal apa segala. Dan tapi ternyata enggak, ternyata the author ends it with hope, saying that no, actually protecting the youth and redemption through education is possible, even though it may look like a ton of defeat. And I think that's just beautiful. And I think that's why this story stays with me so much because maybe deep down, I wish that it's true. Um, yeah, ultimately, I feel like this is a true coming of age, growing up story that is very honest and somehow tema-temanya nusuk gua banget karena relate dan it moves me and it just helps me process a lot of emotions, a lot of things I have been suppressing without me knowing. It made me realize a lot about myself, about how much I deeply value depth and relationship, and how much I long for that too, and how much I am missing that. And yeah, it made me reflect a lot on our modern world, the things we value, and the state of affairs. And yeah, I guess, and this is not me hating life, right? This is not me hating my life now or thinking that who I've become is wrong atau kayak I hate my job apa segala. No, 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 no. It's not. Atau kayak gue pengen, I wish I can go back to university. It's not that gitu. It's because you can grieve something but also recognize it as the best path forward gitu. And that is precisely why you are grieving it, because you know that you cannot revert back because it's no longer compatible, because yang ini, yang versi ini sekarang nih yang the best version, yang emang ini yang compatible, yang emang harus lu lakuin untuk lu survive. Tapi you can acknowledge that and also grieve and also miss that other version of yourself gitu. It is, and that is precisely the theme. Again, the Blue Spring, kayak some seasons of your life are finite. It it is contained. It cannot go on forever. It needs to be over, and you will miss it forever. But at the same time, you know you can never go back to it, and that's okay because what you have now is good. It is different. It is good, but it can never replace what you had also. And honestly, yeah, so honestly, this is why like I always say like I should have never touched JJK because like it messes with me. But also thank you Gege Akutami for writing such incredible and cathartic story that really helped me discover a lot about myself. And this is the beauty of fiction, right? It can, I feel like it can bypass your mind, my mind, and my logic and go straight to the body. Because again, like my responses to Hidden Inventory awalnya juga gue nggak nyadar, tapi gue kayak kenapa it's kayak badan gue tuh kayak why do I feel sad, why do I want to keep rereading? Why am I obsessed? Why do I keep ruminating over this? And it's just now that my logic I feel like catches up. Gua baru kuat gitu ya dissecting pelan-pelan logiknya atau tema-temanya, and what does this mean precisely to me? What does it signal and things like that. And yeah, so I think in 2025 again, I'm grateful for a lot of things, all my projects, all my success. But sometimes I feel like the way I value life biologically, innately, is I just can't just measure it through projects and success and numbers, but it is ultimately about connections and depth and meaning and sometimes finding something that you can devote your entire self towards and be obsessed towards. Okay, I think I've yapped enough and just for a closing statement, gue cuman mau bilang, if I were to have any wish for you going into 2026, it is just one. I wish for everyone here that you can find something that will capture your attention and your whole being, just like how Jujutsu Kaisen did to me. And because once it happens, you will know that there's a piece of yourself there. There's a clue towards something hidden deep inside you that is just waiting for you to acknowledge. And I think that is beautiful. I think us as human beings, our capacity to obsess over something is one of the things that makes us human. You know, may you find something worthy of obsession. And I feel like that is the best wish I can wish upon anyone. And so happy 2026, guys.